Why do you say that I am mad?
Well, you're quite nervous, and you have killed a man.
True, I am nervous and have been so very, very much so, but why does that give cause to madness?
The cause to madness is because you're senseless. Murder without motive? Please.
My senses are sharp, I can hear even your low breath, so how could I be mad?
Your senses may be sharp, but your sense is not, and that's why you're mad. You said Oscar never did you any harm nor wrong.
He never did either.
And he never insulted you.
Not once.
You weren't interested in his money or possessions?
If I wanted it, I would have taken it.
So why is it that you killed him?
I've told you, it is impossible for me to understand.
That's not good enough. You do understand. You must. You killed him.
His eye.
His eye?
Yes, he had the eye of a vulture.
Of a vulture? What's that supposed to mean?
Yes, a vulture. It was pale blue, covered in a film. Made my blood run cold just with a glance. His vulture eye. I wanted to get rid of it forever, so I decided to kill him. You fancy me mad still? Madmen know nothing. Yet, listen how calmly I can tell you the story.
Tell me the story?
Oh, how wise. I began. I was so kind to him that week. I peeked in on him every night.
For how long? And why?
I had to wait for the eye. It wasn't open for the first 7 nights. After a whole week of poking my head in the room at midnight, the eye was open.
At midnight? The whole week?
And the night I killed him.
Well, yes. How did you proceed from there?
Well, on the 8th night, I proceeded with a light, opening the door just a bit, so very slowly. I spent an hour just opening the door, not to make any sound, and just enough for my head to fit. Then I would put the light in first, my head a bit after that, and I would open the light, oh so slightly.
Who's there?
What happened next?
I heard a groan.
The deceased groaned?
Yes, but it was out of mortal terror.
Mortal terror?
It was not a groan of pain or of grief.
How do you know?
It was the low, stifled sound that comes from the back of the mind when faced with rightful paranoia.
And how did you know that?
I knew the sound well. Many nights, right around midnight while everyone else slept, it has come from my own mouth, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me.
You knew it well? So did you pity him then?
I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when he had turned in his bed.
Why didn't you stop then?
His fears had ever since been growing on him. He had been trying to think of them as causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, it is nothing but the wind in the chimney, or a mouse crossing the floor, or a cricket making a single chirp. Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suspicions, but it had all been in vain.
Why was it in vain?
It was in vain, though, because death had always approached him and stalked him with his black shadow and had taken him as victim, and it was with his mournful influence of the unseen shadow that caused him to feel the presence of my head within the room without him even seeing it or hearing it.
The threat of death made him feel your head in the room?
Well, yes.
What happened next?
When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I decided to have a small, very little amount of light shine from the light.
So I turned it on. You
cannot imagine how stealthily, sneakily, until at length a simple dim ray like the thread of a spider shot from the light and fell on the vulture eye. It was open, wide, wide open, and I was furious as I stared at it. I saw it very clearly, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the inside of my bones. But I could not see anything of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if instinct precisely upon the damned spot.
Have I not told you what you mistake for madness is an over-acuteness of sense?
Sit down.
I'm not mad. I can just hear very, very well. There was a low, dull, quick sound that came to my ears.
And what sound was that?
It was like a watch enveloped in cotton, but I knew the sound, and quite well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart.
You could hear his heart?
Yes, it increased my anger, kind of like how the beating of a drum helps the soldier to be motivated.
What next?
Next? I didn't do anything yet. I scarcely breathed. I held the light motionless. I kept it trained on the eye. But the whole time the hellish beat of the heart grew. It went quicker and quicker and louder every instant.
He must have been terrified.
Extremely so. It grew louder and louder with each passing moment. And as I have said, I am nervous, so I am. But now in the dead of night, in the silence of this old house, the noise so strange, it excited me to uncontrollable terror. But still, and for a bit longer, I refrained from doing anything. I just stood, hoping the noise would decrease, but it did the opposite. I thought it may burst because of the deafening harshness of the beat. Suddenly, I thought of the neighbors. They'd hear it. The old man's hour had come.
And that's how he died? Asphyxiation?
Asphyxiation. He was under the bed until it stopped moving.
Go on.
The fading heartbeat didn't bother me. It couldn't be heard through the wall, and after it ceased, I removed the bed and examined Oscar's body. He was stone dead. I placed my hand on his heart. I kept it there for a while, but never felt any pulsation. He was stone dead, and so the eye would never trouble me again. If you still think that I am mad, then you won't after I explain to you the precautions I took for concealing the body. The night was coming to an end, but I worked quickly in the silence of the house. I dismembered the corpse, cutting off the head and the arms and the legs. I made sure the tub caught all, nothing to wash, no stain of any kind or blood spot. All actions were too weary for that.
And that's when the police came in? 4.
Yes.
And they introduced themselves as officers of police, and that a neighbor had heard a shriek from the building. And they thought something bad had happened and called the police.
Yes.
And they told you that they had been dispatched to search the premises and make sure everything was all right.
Yes.
And then what did you do?
I took them all over the house, showed them every room.
Everything looks all right. It was probably just the night getting to the neighbor.
Yeah, someone has a nightmare, and we get called up here at 4 a.m. for no reason.
It's a waste of police resources, I'm telling you.
Yeah, we could be out there stopping a mugging or giving a ticket, but instead we're here, reassuring that someone's nightmare wasn't real.
And the department's out of coffee, so that makes it even more difficult.
Would you like some coffee?
Nah, I wouldn't want to trouble you.
Yeah, we'll just pick up some coffee on our way back to the station.
Unless we get another call about another nightmare, of course.
Say we could just ignore it, but with our luck, the next one would turn out to be real and someone actually get hurt.
Isn't ignoring a tip negligent?
There goes fire. I'll check with or without you all. Chief would go ballistic, blaming us for anything and all the results. He'd even say we were accomplices.
At least it's something to do. It's better than being back at the station doing paperwork all night.
Oh, the paperwork. Oh, I still have some to wrap up from the last case.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't let it pile up, it wouldn't be such a burden.
Can't help it. I just get so tired going through it and I fall asleep. But yeah, it's not my fault. We have to record every little detail.
What do you mean, every little detail?
Every single piece of evidence.
Every single place you search, and if nothing is there.
What the suspect says, and who the prime suspect is.
Why does it have to be so thorough? That seems highly ridiculous.
Murder investigations have the most paperwork, though. Have to record the killer's possible motives.
His means, every suspected weapon, and the actual weapon. And his opportunity.
Villains! Stop pretending! I admit it! Tear up the planks here! It's the beating of his hideous heart!
And then Ross pushed you up against the wall to calm you down. And Mullins pried up the boards and Jeffries read your rights after seeing the body.
Right?